Howdy folks, it's Mama B, and today we're going to add the next color and the next stitch to JoJo's skirt. So we're going to start with the slip knot. Like I said before, I like to start with slip knots because this is going to be high intensity wearing and I don't want it to unravel on her. So we're going to start with the slip knot, and this stitch, I call it the net stitch. It is my go-to stitch, and what I mean by that is this is the stitch that I use when I don't want to think of another stitch, or it's complicated in the previous stitch. It's a good filler because it adds a nice lacy effect without having too much thought put into it. It just is what it is, and it's kind of flexible. So start with your slip knot and go into the first single crochet from the last row with a slip stitch. Yeah. Okay, then we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we're going to skip 2 and go into the third and just slip stitch that. So every time you go into the last row, you'll slip stitch because it helps with it. The way that it slides, it helps it to do a slip stitch rather than a single crochet. So then you're going to just have this little loop, and you're just going to keep making those 2, 3, 4, and 5. Skip 2, go into the third, slip stitch. Chain 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Skip 2, go into the third, slip stitch. You can see it's really easy. It'll give you this nice little loopy-loop look. That's kind of nice. And it's pretty flexible. It can go around any edge and kind of fit into any nook and cranny that you need to put it there. So this is one of my favorites. And like I said, it's kind of a no-brainer stitch. It's easy to do. And you just do it as long as you want. It adds a lacy look. It kind of ends up with that fishnet stocking kind of a look, and gives it a little bit of a rustic look. So yeah, it's one of my favorites. And when I'm feeling lazy and I don't want to think too hard, that's the one I go to. And it just gives little loops all the way around. Now there is a next row for this stitch to really be effective, and so I'm going to show that to you once I get all the way around. And since I'm going all the way around, you know how we do this, we speed it up. So let's speed it up. I have to tell you, I always love it when the chickens come up to the back door. They're all curious about what's going on inside. You know, to get the overall crochet along experience, you gotta be able to enjoy this with me, you know what I mean? That's Kelly. She's our California white chicken. And she is such a curious bird. She's not afraid of anything. Anyway, this is my view, so I thought I'd share it with you because it's kind of funny to me. And you know how I like my birds. Woo-wee, look at that. We made it all the way around. Now, I have 1, 2, 3 plus stitches that I can go into. And normally I wouldn't care. I just keep going and then crawl your way up to the top with slip stitches. Now I'm going to tell you something. We're not going to do that this time. I'm going to show you a different way to connect for this row, but that is a totally valid, good way to do it. For this one, because I've got extra stitches, I'm going to skip 2, go into the third, do a slip stitch. And then, instead of connecting down here, because I don't really want to be down there, I'm going to chain 5, and I'm going to go right in through. Now I'm grabbing this extra end to help tie it down. But I'm just going to go right into the middle of the chain like that, right? Just into the middle of the chain, slip stitching it right in, working that end right into it. Then I'm going to chain 5, and I'm going to go right into the next one. Now this is where the netting starts to come in, and you can see that it looks pretty good like that. I'm just going to keep working my way around. And remember, as I said earlier, on this stitch specifically, anytime you connect to the last row, it's a slip stitch. So we'll chain our 5, go into that last or the next chain and just slip it right off. It's a slip stitch, right? Chain 5. Now if you are going along and realize that you have been single crocheting like this, then you don't have to undo it and fix it, because it doesn't look that different. It's going to be fine. I just choose to slip stitch it because I like how it lays, and a lot of times this top loop can sometimes get a little bit loose in the process, and it's just nicer on your yarn, nicer on your overall work. So that's why we do the slip stitch there. If you want to single crochet it, it's okay. It's as simple as that. You can see how it's pretty flexible with where you put it, because it, you know, you can, if you need more, you can do less than, you can skip less than 2, or if you need less, you can skip 3 or more. So it's pretty flexible, and I really like this stitch when I'm in a I don't want to think about it kind of a mood. It also can end relatively straight, so it can work out any of your weird kinks or any of your weird extra bumps, stuff like that you don't want to deal with. So this is a fantastic stitch, and you can make it as wide as you like or as narrow as you like. If I stop after this row, my net stitch will be that wide, and that's a nice length, that's a nice width for a band in a skirt. But if I want it to be the same as these others, I can just keep going until it's that wide. So I'm going to keep crocheting. I'm going to keep figuring out how wide I want this to be, and I'm going to wrap this video up now because I don't know how long I'm going to, like how wide I'm going to make this, but you'll see in the next video when we add the next color and the next stitch. And remember, you don't have to do these stitches. You can do whatever stitch you want, whatever stitch you feel like at the time. And honestly, folks, that's how I decide what my stitch is going to be. What am I in the mood for? What do I feel like? And in this one, I feel like taking it easy, so I am. But in this one, this last band of color was really quite complicated. When it's stacked up stitches like that and you have to keep track of which row you're on, that one's a little bit more complicated. So that one's a fun one to do, but sometimes you just feel like taking it easy, and this is a really good one for taking it easy. The butterfly stitch is kind of a don't have to think too hard about it. It's a nice one for taking it easy, and you know, it just depends on what mood you're in at the time, and it really builds quite a creative and colorful little skirt. So you don't feel like doing the net stitch, don't do it. Do something else. Do, you know, a fan stitch or a shell stitch or something like that. It won't matter as long as it lines up. And the other one thing I would caution you is don't make it tighter. As you begin your flare on the skirt, you don't want to draw it in tighter. So make sure it's a skirt that continues to, or a stitch that continues to increase just a little bit, because otherwise your skirt will go out and then it'll pull in and it doesn't look good. Trust me, I've done it before. So hey, I hope that this video has been helpful for you. I hope you're enjoying crocheting along with us. And you know, the colors don't matter, the stitches don't matter. It's just a matter of getting it done and having fun as we do it. Take a look at this gorgeous skirt. It's really coming along. I think we're going to do a nice little band of blue about the size of the white, because that'll be a nice tie-in and callback. And then we'll just go from there. So have a fantastic day, and thanks for joining us.